Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Zabit.
Present.
Councilor Garcia. Councilor Taylor. Here. Councilor Recupero. Councilor Robinson. Councilor Robertson. Councilor Brown. Councilor Vido.
Present.
Councilor Maldonado.
Here.
Councilor Rodriguez. Here. Councilor Avellaneda.
Here.
And Councilor Lopez.
Here.
You have all members present.
Thank you. At this... Yes.
Hi, folks. I just want to make sure that I said this out loud for people at home that didn't have the opportunity to read the newspaper. May of last year, we held a contentious vote here at the City Council while I was presiding over this body that where we took a matter out of order and people weren't allowed the opportunity to speak. We voted, and following the vote, there was a lot of yelling, and people were upset, and rightfully so. I'm sorry, I'm really nervous. But following the meeting, we took a recess, and there were threats that I received from public safety officials. And that night I went home, and I was fine, but then I started to think about it and thinking about the responsibility I feel like I owe to this community and making sure that I'm advocating for the most vulnerable amongst us. And for me to sit here and tolerate that type of behavior would be to just allow it to be and sweep it under the rug, and that is not why people elected me. So I asked the city manager to investigate if the threats, if my house were on fire and the firemen decided that they wouldn't respond to my house if that were true, and he did. And there was a lot of back and forth. There was an investigation, but I'm happy to report that at the end of last year, I met with the president of the union, Brian Capistran, who has been nothing but a class act through this process, and we sat down and we came to a mediation, and they issued a public apology. And so I just wanted to let that be known that we are moving in the right directions as far as putting things, letting bygones be bygones and moving forward. However, when I released that letter to the Chelsea Record last week, there were some comments made by the chairman of this council that insinuated that somehow those threats were justified because I made a mistake. And as a mother, as a daughter, an aunt, a sister, and to all my mentees that look up to me, I feel that for too long women have heard, it is your dress, it is your attitude that had merited that rape, it is the way that you spoke that merited that abuse, and I, as a woman in this community, cannot just let that ride. So I just want to make sure that we acknowledge that those sentiments are not reflective of this body as a whole, and as long as I'm a city councilor in this city, I will continue to hold everyone accountable. Quite frankly, I feel that those comments are typical of abusive behavior, and I don't condone that, particularly from someone who stood here a month ago doing a beautiful performance about how we were working in unity and in leadership. I don't believe that's leadership. And anytime that I see any abuses, you best believe, whether I'm on this side of the dais or on the other side, I'm going to continue to call it out because our young girls and our young boys in this community deserve way better. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
For those who follow point of privilege, it is to rise if there is a level of uncomfortableness, whether it be temperature in the room, too hot, too cold, but also if there was something stated in the confines of the meeting that they may address. I rose.
The public deserves to know.
I rose. I allowed the speaker to speak because I thought that there was something into that direction. The motion, and granted, was abused, and was not within the confines of the meetings that were here. But public discussion. I will only suffice to say this. I think that it was a fair question to ask about any expenditure of city funds, and that's all I said. And that anyone who takes it the wrong way, suffice to say, is a difference of opinion. But going on, at this time I recognize Councilor Robinson.
President, I'd like to take out of order the communication that the city manager sent to us, and ask the clerk to read it so we can hear from the city manager at this time.
No objections.
If there's
Seeing no objection,
Request for a state of the city address. Communication received from City Manager Tom Ambrosino. Dear councilors, I am writing to request that the City Council allow me sometime at the upcoming February 10th, 2020 City Council meeting to provide a state of the city address. The address will include a short summary of work we have accomplished and goals for the year ahead. I expect the address to be brief, lasting approximately 10 minutes. Thank you for your consideration.
thank you.
Bench, if no objections, we'll hear from the city manager at this time.
At this time, I'll ask the city manager to please step up to the dais so he can address the city council and the city as a whole. Thank you. Please welcome City Manager Tom Ambrosino.
So, thank you, Mr. President, members of the council, residents of Chelsea. Thanks for giving me a little time tonight to speak about the state of the city. I assure you my presentation will be brief. That's not because there aren't things to celebrate. In fact, I would say the opposite, that I think perhaps this past year was about the most productive that the city's had, at least under my tenure since I've been city manager. You know, there's no question that we have our disagreements and disputes in the city. Some of them play out here at the council level, and you just heard one. But I really think that we can't lose sight of this fact, that during the overwhelming majority of the time that this group is up here doing the public's business, during the overwhelming majority of time, we are united in our purpose. And in that time that we're united in our purpose, that overwhelming majority of the time, we have a pretty stellar record of accomplishment. In the areas that I've long identified as priorities, and I think most councilors share that these are priorities for the city, trying to create opportunities for good residential and commercial development in the city, investing in our neighborhoods and in our infrastructure to improve the quality of life in the city, providing strong support for our school system. In those areas of priority, I would say that the progress we've made, particularly in the last year, has been rather impressive. So just let's start with residential development. I tell you, in 2019, we had an incredibly productive year in terms of approving residential development and making a real dent in our housing shortage. In that 12-month period, this city approved over 1,000 new residential units. That's certainly the most in my tenure here. It may be the most in a generation that was approved in any one year in this city. 590 units at Forbes, including 59 affordable units. 38 affordable units at the Midas site. 62 affordable units on 6th Street. And just in December, the council giving a final vote of approval for the Innis development, 330 units, which includes 96 brand new units for Public Housing Authority tenants. That, I'm not sure there's any city in this whole region outside of Boston that had better housing progress, including progress on affordability, than the city of Chelsea last year. In addition, this council had a successful effort to enhance and strengthen our own affordable housing ordinance. requiring now that 15% of all new developments, 10 units or more, be affordable. And it increased the mix of affordability required, including requiring that some units be affordable to those making as little as 30% of area median income, ensuring that from now on, when the city approves affordable housing, it's actually really affordable to the people who live and work here in Chelsea. Well, thanks, because I really do think that's pretty impressive. But I would say that as impressive as that project has been, we have more work to do, particularly if we want to make progress on affordable home ownership, which is a really tough nut to crack. And that's why I have before you tonight, which I hope you'll consider over the course of the next month or so, a proposal to take $1.5 million from our general stabilization reserve and put it towards affordable home ownership goals of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board. The reality is that there are so few public resources available for affordable home ownership that if this city really wants to make a difference in that realm, it really has to step to the plate with its own public resources, with its own public money. This is the proposal before you, to do just that by providing significant money to move forward with home ownership opportunities that are affordable to residents in Chelsea. My hope is that you'll see the benefits of doing that, and then maybe a year from now, or probably more like 2 years from now, the city manager standing here giving a State of the City address can look back on that as one of the proud accomplishments of the 2020 council, that it made a real dent in affordable home ownership. I will say our success in 2019 wasn't limited to just residential development. We also had a lot of success in the commercial realm, a major and lucrative expansion of the Accorda Pharmaceutical facility on Vail and Carter Street, a new hotel that opened, the Fairfield Inn on Beach Street, the acquisition and repurposing of the huge Farmer Nancy sales site on Willow Street, which is about to get a major renovation, and even most recently at the very end of 2019, the acquisition of the commercial office portfolio that currently exists at Everett and Spruce by a major commercial developer who has plans for significant rehabilitation and improvement of that area. I think those are all evidence that Chelsea continues to be a very attractive market for commercial developers, and I expect that interest to continue into 2020. So that's development, residential and commercial. How about the priority of infrastructure? Well, I think we've had great success there as well. You know, one of the things I'm most proud of in my tenure here in Chelsea is the commitment that we've collectively made as city manager and councilors to take advantage of our financial good health and to put it to work to benefit the lives of our residents. And I can tell you, we are in a good financial position. Even if this council approves everything I have before them tonight, my request for money for affordable housing, all of my CIP proposals, we will still end this year with a general stabilization fund in excess of $20 million. That is a significant amount of reserves for a city the size of Chelsea. Over and above those reserves, we were just certified for an additional $12 million in free cash. So we are in good financial position. Now, some communities might just relish that good fortune and put it aside and save for a rainy day. But here in Chelsea, we together collectively made the decision, the right decision in my mind, that good fortune needed to be shared with the residents. And so we spent the past few years making real significant investments in the city to improve the quality of life of our residents. We've invested in parks, in public works, public projects, streets, sidewalks, from simple things like putting decorative lights on the tower in City Hall and holiday decorations in our downtown areas to really impactful things, such as the opening of the new Clark Avenue Middle School. And those kind of investments, that kind of effort is going to continue in 2020. In fact, the council has before it tonight my request for capital improvement projects for fiscal year 2021. I've got before you over $24 million of investments in that CIP, which is the most that I've ever presented to a city council. And if you approve that in the spring, which I hope you do, we will then move forward with full reconstruction of Broadway from City Hall to Revere, full reconstruction of Beecham Street from Spruce to the Everett line, continuing our complete renovation of what I think is a real jewel in this city, the Garden Cemetery, and significant other improvements to school buildings and school playgrounds, including a brand-new playground for the Williams Middle School complex. That's just a few of the highlights. There are 40-plus projects in that proposal, and I hope to spend some time with the council convincing you that all of these will improve significantly the quality of life for our residents. Of course, the infrastructure project that's held the most attention from me over the past few years has been the downtown. And no question, the downtown still has its challenges. But I think most of us can say that there has been progress there. More police presence, less loitering, better lighting, public art at the gazebo and Division Street and Chelsea Walk, events that take place from the tree lighting to Chelsea Day to movie nights to the night markets that we've had. I think it would be hard for any objective observer to say that that downtown isn't different and really better, at least a little better, than it was even a few years ago. And I'm telling you that in 2020, that progress in the downtown is going to continue. First of all, starting tomorrow night, we're going to be working before the ZBA to pre-permit the redevelopment of the Salvation Army site, creating 4 stories of residential above what I hope will be an active commercial storefront. As soon as that permitting is approved, which I hope will be by the spring, we will put that out to market to developers, and I expect significant interest in that property. In addition, over the next few months, you're going to see the results of our pilot storefront improvement program on Broadway. We're going to have 5 new storefronts on the Broadway corridor, paid for by the city, and I really think it's going to visually enhance, in a real powerful way, the look of that corridor. And finally, thanks to the vote of the council a month ago, we're going to be implementing a major change in traffic, a pilot shared dedicated bike bus lane on Broadway, hopefully by summer, that I think is going to certainly enhance the transit experience for the many bus riders we have in the corridor, but also make the corridor much more safer for pedestrians and attractive to visitors. Now, of course, our goal remains the complete transformation of that corridor, new streets, new sidewalks, new utilities. I admit that's a slow process, but I hope to see progress and progress accelerated in 2020. Finally, the last priority that I mentioned, the school department. Actually, it's the school department where I have the most optimism for the upcoming year. You know, the school department benefited greatly over the past decade by the extraordinary leadership of Superintendent Mary Burke. And her shoes will be very tough to fill. But I know that many who live in the city and care deeply about the school department, including Mary Burke herself, are very confident that we have selected an outstanding successor in Dr. Almia Beta. I can tell you that I think all of us who've watched her have been impressed by the passion and enthusiasm she is bringing to the role of superintendent here in Chelsea. Thankfully, Superintendent Beta is going to have the resources she needs to make a difference here, mostly thanks to the efforts of many people in this community, elected officials, advocates, parents who advocated long and hard at the state level for education reform that was finally signed into law by the governor in November. And that new formula for urban districts is really going to mean significant financial resources for the city of Chelsea, spread out and slowly implemented over the course of the next 7 years, but significant nonetheless, and will allow Dr. Abeda to implement the programming she's going to need to move the city forward. Now, I really caution that the presence of this additional state aid, though significant and long overdue, doesn't mean that the city's work is over. It doesn't mean that we no longer have to provide some financial support to the school department. We have to continue to be a strong financial partner to that system if we want our school system to improve. And toward that end, I'm going to tell you that I'll be looking for some financial support for that system in the very near future to continue our current collaboration on the Bunker Hill tuition program. If you recall, for the last 2 years, that program, funded entirely by the City Council, has ensured that every Chelsea High School student has the opportunity to get a 2-year associate's degree at Bunker Hill entirely free of charge. So shortly, probably within the next month or so, I'm going to be sending an appropriation request to the council to continue that program for a 3rd year so that we can continue to proudly say, at least I'm always proud to say, that not a single Chelsea High School student has their higher education dreams denied because of a lack of money. And I think that's something of which we all can be very proud. So that's a brief look at our priorities, where we were in 2019, where we stand in 2020. I just do want to raise and close with one more theme. Based on what I've already said, I think we're well positioned to have a good and productive year in 2020. But no municipality can be truly successful, can sort of transform itself from a good community to a really great, thriving, livable community unless it has one more element. And that, to me, is strong civic engagement by its residents. And that's going to be particularly important in the city of Chelsea in 2020. It's going to be critical for us to have that to reach our full promise and potential in 2020 because of 2 things that demand strong civic participation, and that is the city's charter review and the 2020 census. The arc of the city's progress over the next 10 years is really going to be determined in large part by the success of those 2 projects, and as much as government is going to want to help, those 2 projects can only be successful if we have strong civic participation. So with respect to the city charter review, I know that's a high priority of this council. I'm certainly willing to help in any way I can, but it's really going to depend on the council and the residents here to make that a success. Real serious consideration has to be given to the kind of government that you want here in Chelsea over the course of the next decade. And there's no right or wrong answer to that. There are lots of different governing models that municipalities utilize, and there are pros and cons to each. what's critically important is that whatever motto is determined to be the right one for Chelsea be the one that has strong civic support. And that will require this council to really ensure that the engagement of the residents is widespread. The census, I'll end with the census. It really would be hard for me to overstate the importance of the upcoming 2020 census. Having an accurate count of the city's residents will mean over the course of the next decade millions and millions of dollars for the city of Chelsea. But I would also say that's important, but there are actually more than dollars just at stake. We need our residents to have a voice, and in order to have a voice, we have to first know that they're here. I think it's critically important to us to send a strong message, for this community to send this strong message, that no matter how or under what circumstances people arrived here in Chelsea, they're not going to be cowered into silence. And that means they have to stand up and say loud and clear, and I apologize for my very poor Spanish, aquí estamos y cantamos. We are here and we count. And that's what we need. So I'll conclude by saying this. Even though participation is going to be a challenge, I do have confidence we'll succeed. You know, a few weeks ago at the Martin Luther King breakfast, I made this point. I said why I love this community so much is that despite our many differences, and they're real, but when the cause is important, when the need is great, when the issue is critical, such as those we face here in 2020, this community, at least in my tenure and my experience, has always put aside its differences, stood united, and delivered results. And I have no doubt that that will be the same in 2020, and that the state of the city will continue to be defined and described as one of remarkable success. Thank you.
We'll now move on to the next portion of our meeting, memoriams and celebratory resolutions.
We have a resolution introduced by Councilor Robertson and all members of the City Council. Whereas the City of Chelsea, celebrating Black History Month, will honor Susan Gallant, Jose Arreta, Linda Eliotto Robinson, Beverly Martin Ross, Celeste Williams, and Patricia and Anthony Simboli Sr. of Simboli Foundation as Chelsea Trailblazers of 2020 for their resilient and selfless service to the city community. And whereas these individuals are selfless and have pushed their way through adversities while continuously supporting all members of our community, they have been a beacon of light for all those who want to follow in their footsteps and are respected for their service. And whereas the Trailblazer Award recognized individuals who identify and implement innovative changes that positively affect their community. And whereas these individuals have proven if people want to get involved and bring change in their community, it can be done. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the Chelsea City Council, wish to congratulate Susan Gallant, Jose Arreta, Linda Eliotto Robinson, Beverly Martin Ross, Celeste Williams, and Patricia and Anthony Simboli Sr. for their hard work and efforts in making Chelsea a better place to live, and congratulate them for receiving the Chelsea Trailblazer of 2020 award.
The chair recognizes Councilor Robinson.
Adopt this unanimously under suspension. I'll be very brief. I want to congratulate everybody. Even though February is Black History Month, Black history to me is all year round. And I think it's important that we as a community recognize that. And there's a book that a woman put together down in New Jersey that listed all the inventions that African Americans have made and contributed to this country. And in a conversation with my brother, I said, what didn't we invent? Okay? And I will close with that, but I ask for the Trailblazers to come up and receive their award.
Other speakers? We'll go talk that. Before we do that, I'm sorry, before we do that, we're going to see if there are any other councilors who wanted to speak. Chair recognizes Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am honored to stand and support the CBC in celebrating our Trailblazers and doing this Black History Month celebration. I want to congratulate all the winners, the Trailblazers, for your dedication and your work and effort for all you do for our city. As we know, Black History is the Black History is the month that we celebrate and look at the achievements of all Americans, but specifically African Americans. This year, again, we celebrated the art of Black history in our third annual City Hall display. I'm proud of the work that's being done here. Not only do we recognize the work, but we recognize the central role of all those African Americans that have played a central part of our history. I want to thank you all for the work you do. As the city manager was talking, I was writing notes, and special shout out to the Simboli family. We're talking about education and how many students have went on to Bunker Hill Community College. Every year since I've been a counselor, this family has not only supported the city of Chelsea, but they have supported it with their money and scholarships. And Patricia's called me on numbers of occasions to ask me to make sure that people apply for the scholarships. She wanted to make sure those that really needed the scholarships were getting the scholarships. So I am proud to be a part of you guys, to support you guys, and also a special shout out to my good friend, Reverend Sandra Whitley, who will be preaching at our church on the 23rd of February for our Black History celebration. But I want to thank you also for what you do to keep Black history alive here in Chelsea. Thank you all.
Chair recognizes Councilor Vido.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll keep it short and brief because I don't want to keep these heroes without capes standing against the wall too long. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge, in recognizing my own African roots, I also celebrate Black History Month, and we take it very serious in our household. I just wanted to acknowledge Joan Cromwell for all the work that you do in the Chelsea Black community. It is not easy to put all these events together in February. She literally comes out with this action-packed calendar with events all over the city, and every year she introduces new trailblazers to our community that a lot of us that are involved in local politics know, but a lot of people out there don't. So for me, it makes me incredibly proud that you're giving them the platform and acknowledging them for the work that they've done, whether it's education, whether it's activism, whether it's just Beverly Martin, just, hey girl, from across the room, or housing, whatever it is, however you contribute. We all contribute to this community. It's what makes Chelsea amazing and a beautiful, diverse community. So I just want to tip my hat off to you and thank you all for what you do.
Councilor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would also like to echo what my colleagues have mentioned. I want to highlight and thank the CBC community for really highlighting the work of the Trailblazers who we will be honoring today. And it is no secret for many of us who have been here for so long here in Chelsea to know that the Trailblazers that we are honoring today with this resolution have had a beautiful impact in our community. From Jose, I'm looking at you in our community development and going out there to ensure that residents get all the help. Celeste, you have been here for every single program, event that I can think of. You have always brought your energy and the best of yourself to continue giving to this community. Suzanne, I know that you've donated so much, not only monetarily, but also your time for many of the causes here in Chelsea and the Simboli family. I had an education thanks to your support, and I am only one of, I know plenty of other high school students who have been privileged to get that donation that can get us through school. So thank you all for all the work that you do in our community every single day. So now you're welcome to come up.
I'm just going to say something real quick, and I want to say thank you to the Chelsea Black community for hosting the events and also having such a vibrant schedule as Council Vido spoke about, and that and I just this week am both surprised and appreciative of how much more we are learning as time goes on about the history of African Americans in this country that has been washed over. And I want to point to an article I read, I'm not sure how many of you saw it, in the Boston Globe. They discovered that the U.S. Constitution had an 8-year-old boy who was a resident of Boston. His father, African American, worked on the U.S. Constitution. This 8-year-old boy served and worked on the ship in 2 battles. He was the youngest African American, and I think ever youth to ever serve in military for this country. And for hundreds of years, this was not known. It's come to light, and it's a little bit of sadness in reading the story that this young man later on became a sailor, traveled the world, was a merchant sailor, and then unfortunately, during our darkest times, was captured, even though he was a free man, captured and sent to the South. And he lived out his final days as a slave. And I think it's both sad but enlightening of what was going on. And the history of the contribution of blacks in this country continue to come out. And again, it's the efforts of groups like this that bring that out. And I think that we can all appreciate that effort. So thank you. If the nominees will come forward, we'll take a group picture, please, with Leo presenting the award. We'll now move on to the public speaking portion of our meeting. If anyone would like to address the City Council, please address the podium, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Roman Pucko. I'm a resident of 191 Linfield Street, Peabody, Mass. A member of the Polish American Veterans, Post 13 of Chelsea Incorporated. A Vietnam-era veteran, a commissioned officer, served with Bravo Company of the 504th Signal Battalion, Signal Corps in Hanau, Germany. I brought up the issue of Carter Street from Washington Avenue to Orange Street. It's in deplorable condition. A lot of high school students use it along with teachers. The traffic is unbelievable. The sidewalks are in deplorable condition. I talked to many department heads, parking commission, planning, DPW, but I found the answer. What I've got to do is write a letter to the city manager and to the president of the city council and define what's required. I was told it's going to cost a lot of money, but I've never seen any action on it. Secondly, to all members of the city council, please remember the oath of office you took when you were sworn in. Know, understand, and carry out your duties and responsibilities without bias. Thank you very much.
Would anyone else like to address the City Council?
Good evening, Henry Wilson, CBC member.
Good evening, Joan Cromwell, 38 Addison Street, lifelong resident of Chelsea, and president of Chelsea Black Community.
105 Beacon Street, Chelsea. And tonight we're here to let everyone know about the programs coming up for Black History Month. I'm going to start off with February 17th, at 5 p.m., the Cook-Off Community Dinner. It starts at 5 o'clock, like I said. It's going to be at La Luz de Cristo Iglesia Church at 738 Broadway in Chelsea. Also on February 20th, Joan can tell you about that one.
All right, and I just want to start with saying thank you to the council for allowing us to be here tonight and to recognize and share with us our celebration for Black History Month. And it's so great and so enriching that we can have conversations and actually learn from each other. So as I always say, Black History Month isn't just about Black folks. It's not just about enjoying it for ourselves, but it's also about celebrating who we are as a community and coming together. So whites, Blacks, Latinos, we all walk together, and our generations before us walked together for civil rights. So it's called Black History Month, but it's also American history. So I just thank you for allowing us to come here this evening and share in fellowship and reflect on what it's all about. I only wish that it was incorporated in the history books when I was in grade school, but that's okay because we're learning and it's an everyday process, so I thank you for that. And I just want to elaborate on the 20th that it's going to be an amazing event. It starts at 5 p.m. We have the best dinner in town going on. I've always said Taste of Chelsea really has someone to reckon with. So that's from 5 to 6 p.m. And then we're going to go right into a program, and we're going to continue to celebrate the Chelsea Trailblazers that are just our unsung great people in our community that continue to do great things. So we're going to have vendors, we're going to have entertainment and spoken word, we're going to have great dinner, and just basically to come together as a community to celebrate Black History Month as one, because our slogan is one strong voice, and that's what we stand for. So thank you.
All right, so on the 28th at 6 p.m. at the Clark School.
Yep.
Big event. This is, if you got any talent at all, you can dance, you can sing, you can do poetry, if you can walk. We have a fashion show also, so,
It has to be moonwalking, not just walk.
okay.
You gotta bring it.
Like last year, the pastor, but it's a different story, different time. So this event is going to be a great time there at the Clark School. So welcome everybody to come out there, bring some of your talent. I know, Councilor Vito, you got a lot of poetry, a lot of artwork and stuff. You can bring that with you. Councilor Vega Maldonado, you got some skills somewhere. Either you or Armani got some skills, guys. I know he loves the Patriots, Jonathan. And, you know, the rest of the councils up there, I know you have a lot of talent. You guys know a lot of people in the community, a lot of young people in the community also. So have them reach out to CBC, either myself or Joan Cromwell, for the special event on the 28th.
And lastly, I just want to mention February 27th at the Senior Center. So they're going to be celebrating Maya Angelou and the power of music in Black history, and that's at noontime, and it comes with a delicious lunch. So stop by and fellowship and share with the seniors as well. Thank you, and hope to see you all around town. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Seeing no further speakers, we'll now move on to the next portion of the meeting, the approval of minutes. Council Robinson.
Accept and file the minutes under suspension if there are no objections.
Seeing none. Communications from the city manager.
First communication from the city manager, notice of waiver of intent. Dear councilors, pursuant to the Administrative Code, Section 112.02, I am writing to notify you of my intention to hire Ms. Jasmine L. Bones, 58 Wake Park, Revere, Massachusetts, for a temporary part-time computer technology position and to grant her a waiver from the residency requirement set forth in Administrative Code, Part 4, Section 112.01. There were no other candidates for this position. A copy of Ms. Bones' resume is attached. In accordance with Section 112.02, I requested you provide me with any comments on the proposed waiver within 7 days.
Councilor Garcia.
To accept communication under suspension if there are no objections.
Seeing none.
The next communication from the city manager, appointments to boards and commissions. Pursuant to Section 4.2 of the Charter of the City of Chelsea, I'm writing to recommend the following individuals to boards and commissions in the city. For appointment to the Chelsea Scholarship Committee, Mary Burke, 95 Sagamore, Chelsea, to serve the remainder of the term of Grace Mowina, who has resigned. This term expires on May 20th, 2022. For appointment to the Planning Board, Ms. Charlene McLean, 100 Broadway, number 3, to serve the remainder of the term of Councilor Todd Taylor. This term expires on October 6, 2020. For appointment to the Chelsea Housing Authority as the tenant representative recommended by a project-wide federal tenants organization in accordance with the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 121B and 5, and federal law, Ms. Bezeda Ezredo, 1 Parkway Court, Apartment 1, Chelsea, for a 5-year term expiring in 2025. I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. I have attached the resume of the appointees.
The chair recognizes Councilor Vidal.
Mr. Chairman, I move this to a second reading under suspension if there are no objections.
Seeing none.
The capital improvement plan. Pursuant to my obligation under Section 5.4 of the Chelsea City Charter, I hereby submit to you my proposal capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2021 to 2025. The enclosed capital plan continues the city's commitment to utilize our strong reserves for the purpose of enhancing the quality of life in the city. The total investment proposed for the FY21 is almost $25 million.
Councilor Vidal asks that we waive the reading.
And I'd like to move it to a subcommittee on conference under suspension.
Seeing none. And we'll also be scheduling a public hearing. Next communication. Dear councilors, pursuant to Section 4.31 of the Chelsea City Charter, I am writing to request City Council approval for cost items of the new collective bargaining agreement negotiated with Teamsters Local 25, covering the DBW for the period of, and I think this is a mistake, should be July 1, 2020 to June 30th.
I apologize, that was a mistake. July 1, 2019
Okay. A copy of a memorandum of the agreement is attached. The memorandum of agreement outlines the changes to the contract terms. The most significant part of the negotiation for the city was the agreement with the union on terms and salaries for the employees that will work in the new water and sewer department. The major cost items of this particular agreement are the annual raises. The first year increases vary depending upon grade because the city agreed to specific differentials between grades to make promotions more meaningful. In years FY 2021, FY 2022, the increases to all grades will be 2.75% and 3% respectively. The total cost of all the wages increases over the 3 years of the contract is approximately $175,834. I respectfully ask that the City Council approve the cost items of this contract, as well as transfer from salary reserve account in a total amount of $40,879.82 to accommodate the FY20 costs. Copies of the proposed order to effectuate this transfer are attached. I recognize Councilor Robinson, who has a couple of orders, I believe.
I'll accept and file a communication on the suspension. There'll be some orders coming up on the new business.
So moved.
We have a copy of a communication from the city manager, notice of waiver of intent. Pursuant to the Administrative Code, Section 112.02, I'm writing to notify you of my intention to hire Ms. Sayu Cooper, 54 Townsend Street, Boston, Massachusetts, for the position of Housing Development Program Manager in the Department of Planning and Development, and to grant her a waiver from the residency requirements set forth in Administrative Code, Part 4, Section 112.01. A copy of Ms. Cooper's resume is attached. In accordance with Section 112.02, I requested you provide me with any comments on the proposed waiver within 7 days.
Chair recognizes Councilor Garcia.
Motion to accept and file communication if there are no objections.
Seeing none.
The next communication, transfer from general stabilization for affordable housing.
Okay. Dear councilors, for some time I've been thinking about how to best provide financial support for affordable home ownership in the city. After much deliberation, I have concluded that, at least this point, until such time that the legislature may provide other options such as a local transfer tax, the only way to do so is through direct funding from our significant reserves to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board. Accordingly, I am now writing to request that the City Council consider a transfer from the General Stabilization Account to advance affordable home ownership initiatives of the AHTFB. We are well aware of the housing affordability crisis in the city. Mitigating this problem requires creation of both affordable rental properties and affordable home ownership opportunities. Although the demand still far exceeds supply, the nonprofit community has been able to make some progress in developing affordable rental units, mainly because generous government subsidies exist for such rental development. However, there is a dearth of public money available to subsidize affordable home ownership home ownership units. So if we wish as a city to encourage affordable home ownership,
File a communication under suspension if there are no objections.
Councilor Robinson moves to waive the reading. Thank you very much. There will be, seeing no objections, there will be a couple of orders coming up later on the new business.
We have a communication, transfers from sale of land account.
I'm writing to, would someone like to waive this reading also? Councilor Robinson moves that we have a waiver of the reading of the communication from the city manager regarding transfers from sale of land account. There will be a couple of orders read later that will also be sent to committee.
To new business.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
For the sake of transparency, can I ask that we just at least read off the titles and the amounts?
Yes.
The sale of land account, I believe it's $3.5 million, can be used for capital projects. City Hall Tower restoration is $1,100,000. The school stabilization transfer balance of approximately $2.4 million.
Thank you.
Okay. The next order of business, communications and petitions to the council. We have a copy of a communication received from City Clerk Jeanette Cintron White regarding the warrant for the presidential primary March 3rd, 2020.
Third 2020 presidential primary be accepted, and we need a roll call vote on the acceptance.
Okay, so councilors, we have the communication with the wards here from the city clerk, and Councilor Robinson asked that his order for the, this to be passed be taken out of order. We will have a roll call vote to accept it.
The order reads that the warrant for March 3rd, 2020 presidential primary be accepted. Yes would be to accept it. Councilors Abbott?
Yes.
Councilor Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Recupero? Yes. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Brown? Yes. Councilor Vido?
Yes.
Councilor Maldonado? Yes. Councilor Rodriguez? Yes. Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
And Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
11 in favor, none opposed, motion adopted. The next communication is a copy of a communication received from Jeanette Cintron White regarding the actions approved at the February 4th, 2020 Traffic and Parking Commission meeting.
What is the will of the council?
Asked to accept and file a communication, and we all have copies of the order that was presented by Jeanette at the Traffic Commission that was passed at their previous meeting. If anyone has any questions, they can speak to Jeanette in regards to the order.
Would anyone like to talk about any of the proposed new permit parking regulations that were made? None? If so, would the council allow me to speak from the podium? No, I object. Okay. Accepted and filed.
Next order of business.
We're going on to
Second readings.
second readings.
Right, we have a second reading on the appointments introduced by the city manager, appointments to boards and commissions. For appointment to the tree board, Mr. David M. Thurin, 20 High Street, Chelsea, for a 3-year term expiring in 2023. For appointment to the Board of Health, Ms. Karina S. Culler, 55 Eleanor Street, to serve the remainder of the term of Chris Miller, who has resigned. Term expires February 25th, 2022. For appointment to the Historical Commission, Mr. James Roche, 645 Broadway, Chelsea, for a 3-year term expiring in 2023. For reappointment to the Traffic and Parking Commission, Ms. Caroline Vega, 85 Blossom Street, Chelsea, for a new 3-year term expiring on March 12, 2023. For reappointment to the Council on Elder Affairs, Mr. Gerald DeStefano, 99 Great Woods Road, number 1, Saugus, for a new 3-year term expiring on March 12, 2023. For reappointment to the Board of Library Trustees, Mr. Alexander Christmas, 67 Cook Ave, Chelsea, for a new 3-year term expiring on March 12, 2023.
What is the will of the council?
Affirm all the appointments.
Hold on 1 second.
Just a second reading.
That's not the question I have. You have to recuse yourself. So you should state.
I would recuse myself because Caroline Vega is my aunt, so I don't want to.
Step outside.
A yes vote would be to affirm, a no vote would not be to accept.
Question regarding Elder Affairs, Gerald DeStefano. He doesn't live in Chelsea. I thought we would support people who live in Chelsea to be on the boards.
Yes. We'll allow the city manager to address the council regarding the question through the chair about the appointment of Gerald DeStefano
DiStefano,
from
yeah.
99 Great Woods, Saugus.
So this is a board that the director does have trouble filling positions. Mr., I think the pronounce it might be DiStefano, but if it's not, I apologize. Has been on this council for a long, long time and is one of her active members on the council. She has asked that he be reappointed. His name was before, not this exact council, but the city council 3 years ago. He was appointed, notwithstanding the fact that he was outside the city of Chelsea, but it does require your vote to approve him. So I'm just repeating the advocacy of the director that he is an active member of the board, and this is a board she has a tough time filling. In fact, there remains one open position on this board, which we haven't been able to fill as of yet. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilor Robinson.
He's been involved with the senior center for at least 40 years. I think it would be a disservice if we decided to knock him off.
The clerk will call a roll.
Councilor Zabit? Yes. Councilor Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor? Yes. Councilor Recupero? Yes. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes?
Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
10 members in favor, none opposed, one recused. Okay. The next second reading, we have the order introduced by Councilor Zabit. Request that the city manager look into the purchasing of tablets, cases, keyboards, and styluses for each of the city council members.
Chair recognizes Councilor Zabit.
I make a motion to adopt on a roll call vote.
Can't object. If you'd like to rise and speak on it.
Yeah.
No, it's the maker of the motion first.
The reason that I was inspired to propose that we have tablets as city councilors is initially because I receive a packet like this every other week. And it's about 70 pages, maybe 100 times 11, multiplied by 11. And it does not really serve a purpose for us to have this paper when it can be communicated, most of what we need can be communicated digitally. For the sake of uniformity and for all of the city councilors to have a tablet in front of them versus maybe some have piles of paper, some have their own laptops. For the sake of security, I was hoping that my colleagues would agree with me that tablets would serve the purpose of efficiently and effectively being able to transmit the information that we need on a weekly basis, and that there would be something that we would utilize here at City Hall, and that it would be a very effective way of transmitting information as well as being environmentally conscious. This is, let's say, 700 pages every other week that are going mostly into recycling or into the garbage. It doesn't serve a purpose, and it is certainly not helping the environment. So it might not seem like a lot of paper or saving a lot of trees initially, but it is certainly the current wave that is going on, we hope, throughout the community and around the country to try to do our best to be environmentally conscious. And so I hope that my colleagues will agree with that. Thank you.
Councilor Recupero.
I disagree with what the fellow councilor says. For one, the taxpayer shouldn't have to pay for your tablet. If you want it, you get it and you use it yourself. Councilors here already use computers that belongs to them. And the second thing is, paper is going to be used just the same. You're not going to eliminate the paper. The paper has to be put because everybody still has to get them all in papers. So that doesn't go anywhere that way. And for another thing, the security isn't within the paper, not within your computer. Your computer could be hacked, it could be gone at any time. Securities are within your paper, and your paper is recyclable. You throw it, it's made out of a tree. It doesn't come out of plastic. And the biggest thing I have with this is, why should the taxpayers pay every couple of years to replace your tablet? There's no other community that does that around here. There's no community in every, Boston gives you something, but you're there 24 hours a day. You can go and no other community has it. And for one, if you wanted to, I'm not opposed you having it. You can have it. Buy it yourself. Why should the taxpayer have the burden of paying for something that you can afford yourself? There's no need for us to go every couple of years and replace it. Nobody's telling you not to have it. You can have it. I'm not against you having it. I'm just against the taxpayer paying for it, for you. You can have it, buy it yourself. There's no problem. And as far as the paper, you're going to keep the paper no matter what it is. It's going to stay there. So what is your goal? You're not going to eliminate the paper, so what is the goal of it? Thank you.
Councilor Vido?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Garcia.
I just want to lift my former counselor, brother in service, Luis Tejada, who had this idea of us having tablets, and it was absolutely shut down. The last time I was actually in support of it. But the more that I sit up here, the more I become more conservative when it comes to taxpayer money, and I really start to, yes, Mr. Taylor, I said that publicly. I just start looking at the money that we're spending. And so I asked our administrative assistant to kind of look into it to see how much it would cost. And so she said, after she did research with different departments, that the tablets, that if we were to order, would be 10.5 Samsung Galaxy tablets, and that costs about $280 for the device, $38 for a case, and $40 a month for unlimited data. And that would be for each counselor, and the lifespan of each digital device is about 4 years. In a year, we spent about, I think it's, if you count the toner and the paper, I think it comes out to about $138 a year. So that was just per counselor. Multiply that by 11. At the end of the day, our city clerk still has to print papers and still has to file it in for the sake of record keeping. And I, like my sister in service here, we're environmental activists. And so it's something that that really means a lot to me. Oh, thank you. It was a strategy advisor that did the research. Thank you, Lydia. And so she had sent that over to me. But being an environmental activist, when I hear that argument, it makes absolute sense to me. I don't want to keep wasting paper. But the idea that this is more safer for the community than digital electronic devices that you can't recycle, to me, is just not the right argument to bring forth to us, because I would imagine that those electronic devices that are known to cause cancer and whatnot are probably more hazardous to our environment and to physical health. So I will not be supporting this motion, although I do want to congratulate my sister in service for her very first order as a city councilor, so thank you for that. But I will be voting against this because although we do, get it, although we do waste a lot of paper, at least the paper can be recycled and the devices cannot. And I really do feel uncomfortable putting that burden on our taxpayers. Quite frankly, city councilors here get paid $14,000 a year, which is probably one of the lowest in the entire state, or in this region at least. And so I would be more inclined to support that money going towards health insurance for city councilors, or a spending budget so we can try to interact with constituents better and try to engage them more, as opposed to supporting this. So again, I will be voting against it, but thank you.
Councilor Garcia, if we can see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I really appreciate all the testimonies of my colleagues, and for the sake of visuals, because I am more of a visual person, what you see here is the paper that we get to take home, or actually leave here for, I want to say this was between the months, honestly, this was between October, December. So if this doesn't help your visual of how much paper we waste, and this is just for a few months, mind you, if we do the math, we only meet officially 2 Mondays a month. And this is what we deal with on a weekly basis. So if we do the math, I really appreciate the math that was done and the counting that was done, but if we're talking about being environmental activists in this community, and we talk about getting rid of plastic bags in our city, we should also be conscious of our actions as city councilors and elected officials. And I believe that having this electronic device to help us communicate more effectively is a good way to really practice what we preach as elected officials. And I would like to add that your idea of bringing tablets to the city council is not something new. A lot of progressive cities have implemented that in their communities. I'm not going to go back and do the research. You guys can do that. There's plenty cities that are enjoying and using these tablets. But also, this is added in our CIP plan, so when my colleagues get a chance to look at it, it will cost the city $4,500 to use these tablets. So $4,500 in comparison to all this stack of paper that, forget about it being inconvenient, just think about it as not being an environmentally friendly option for anyone. So we're going to take plastic bags from our community. Let's get rid of this paper. Lastly, that being said, the other thing I want to clarify is I'm pretty sure that Councillor Sabat, when you put this offer on, you don't want tablets for every single new elected official every 2 years. What you're saying is you want one tablet for the city councilor that's currently serving that can eventually be inherited by the next person. Is that correct? Okay, so I will be supportive of this measure because I want to be conscious of our environment and I don't want to be dealing with this. So for all the folks who are more visuals, this is what we deal with for a few months. Let's not even count the year. So I'll be supporting this.
Councilor Robinson.
I think before we shut it down, actually, I sent a communication to talk about moving this to conference and having Ramon come and speak in regards to what the real cost is. The $4,500 or whatever is in the book doesn't include licenses and everything else that goes with the tablet. So I think to have a professional come to a conference and give us the pros and cons why we should use the tablets. So I would offer amendment that we move it to a conference.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. Jesus, wow. Tablets. Hey, I think this is a great idea. I think we had 2 weeks to actually do our homework. I'm glad some of us have done our homework to look into what it costs, what it shouldn't cost, and what it should cost. But I think it costs about $6,000 a year. That's with the licenses, that's with the updates, that's with the training that we will get to hold on if we get them. You get everything within for $6,000. It's a great way to get rid of this paper agenda that my colleagues are showing here. I mean, if you don't hear it, you can see it. Councilors can learn how to do it. Not only will it allow us to be more active and more efficient in here, we can also keep up with the meetings. We're talking about we want to be transparent. We want to be able to put all the meetings on, you know, the television here. This is a way that we can actually get everything what's going on here. I mean, we have to wait weekly, sometime bi-weekly, to get our stack of paper to look at it before 48 hours before the next vote or the city council meeting. But this is a way that we can actually track legislation, track what's being done, make amendments, do our study, do our homework. Remember, you know, at the very basic end of the tablets, and there was one councilor that said it tonight, it's probably about $200 or $300. Probably at the very top end of the tablet, it's probably about $500. So you times that, time 11, you get the training, you get the license agreements, you get all the secure data that you need so you won't get hacked, which is probably no one's going to be hacking us for what's going on at City Hall. It's all over the website. I mean, we have that on the website. Again, I think it's a great idea that not only will we be saving trees, but in the long run, we'll be saving money. And one of my counselor stated that one of our former counselors had brought this idea up, and we were like, nah, because we were somewhat back in the old age. But we have to come up to where we are today. This here is an opportunity. This is a tool, by the way. It's not an opportunity. It's a tool that we can connect every week, and we can have these things right in front of us. So I don't really see a lot of argument. As one of my counselors stated, it's already in our projected next CIP. So it's something we should be looking on. This is a great motion for the council. I appreciate your motion. I looked at it last week. It was shut down. This week I did my homework on it. It gave me a better perspective of it, and I think it's something we can use. Thank you.
Councilor Lopez?
So I will be voting against this. What happened when you, especially Councilor Garcia, or some of the people who work in Boston, I don't know, hurry, coming here to a meeting and they don't bring the tablets? What's going to happen? Or Lydia or whoever's behind the desk, can you make more copies for me, paper? So that's one thing. And then how come the taxpayer will be paying this? There's no other cities. I did research too. Winthrop, Everett, Revere don't have it. Even Boston, I don't think they have it. Thank you.
Was that suspension?
Councilor Rodriguez? Well, I just want to hear from people first. Councilor Rodriguez?
I just want to add, I don't want to repeat, I will be voting against this, but it's, you know, tablet's a tool that most of us already have, and we have smartphones, so if you do not want the paper copy, you could always ask for it to be emailed and open it on your phone. Something simple of saving money and saving trees is just asking for it to be emailed. Thank you.
Councilor Taylor?
So I'd like to say that I'm happy that some of my counselors are with me as far as fiscal conservatism goes. There is a way for companies in general, and I think even the city council, if we invest in technology, it saves time. Time is money. Modernization. I'm all in favor of that. I agree with Councilor Robinson that this should probably be moved to conference so we can hear what Ramon has to say and what exactly it's going to cost, and the other things about, you know, the labor involved in generating all this paper is also something that would be cut down. So I believe that this should be moved to conference so we can have some expert opinion.
Is there an objection to this going to conference on the suspension, or do we need to have a vote? Councilor Rod?
Going to conference?
What's that?
I object to go
Object.
to conference.
Okay, so the chair, I'm sorry, the clerk will call a roll call on the motion to send this to conference. A yes will send this to conference, and no will defeat that measure, and then we'll vote on the original matter itself.
Councilor Zabit?
Yes.
Yes to send it to conference. Councilor Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Recupero? Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido?
No.
Councilor Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez?
No.
Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in favor, 3 opposed. The amendment carries. The motion going to conference.
Okay. Next order. Order that pursuant to Section 4-31, the City of Chelsea City Charter, the City Council shall approve cost items set forth in the collective bargaining agreement negotiated with the Teamsters Local 25 for DPW, memorialized in the Memorandum of Agreement for fiscal years 2020-2022, dated October 30th, 2019. Councilor Robinson.
If there are no objections?
Is this going to conference?
No, second reading.
On the,
Okay.
I will request for a conference.
There's going to be. I did.
We just did.
Send in the conference.
Okay. Next order introduced by Councilor Robinson, order that to fund the collective bargaining agreement negotiated with the Teamsters Local 25 for the DPW for fiscal year 2020, the Chelsea City Council authorizes the transfer of $40,879.82 from the salary reserve account to the following accounts: the FY 2020 DPW Streets and Sidewalk regular salaries account in the amount of $29,761.62 to the FY 2020 DPW sewer regular salaries account, in the amount of $5,559.10, and the FY 2020 DPW water regular salaries account, in the amount of $5,559.10.
Councilor Robinson?
Move to a second reading and actually move to a conference.
And conference, yeah.
Yes.
Next order introduced by Councilor Robinson, order that the Chelsea City Council authorize appropriation of $1,500,000 from the General Stabilization Account 7020 to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Account 7026, provided that such funds shall only be used to support affordable home ownership initiatives.
Move to a second reading, also go into conference.
Next order introduced by Councilor Robinson, City of Chelsea, Massachusetts, allocation of property disposition proceeds to redeem outstanding urban renewal bonds and fund school projects and City Hall Tower. Ordered that the Chelsea City Council, pursuant to and in accordance with the provisions of the general laws, Chapter 44 and 63, proceeds of the sale of properties pursuant to the Everett Avenue Urban Revitalization and Development Plan, currently on deposit in the sale of land account 3079 in the aggregate amount of $7,135,077.58 are hereby appropriated as follows: $3,030,806.44 to pay on June 1st, 2020, the principal amount, interest, and redemption premium, if any, on all the city's outstanding general obligation municipal purpose loan of 2009 bonds, Series C, dated July 1, 2009, which bonds were issued to pay a portion of the cost of acquiring the urban renewal properties. B, $556,000 to pay on June 1st, 2020, the principal amount, interest, and redemption premium, if any, on $550,000 of the city's outstanding general obligation municipal purpose loan of 2011 bonds dated March 1st, 2011, which bonds were issued to pay a portion of the cost of acquiring the urban renewal properties, the 2011 urban renewal bonds. C, $1,100,000 to a new City Hall Tower capital improvement project, Series 5540. And D, $2,448,271.14 of the funds in the sale of land account 3079 to the School Capital Building Fund 7024 to pay cost of school capital projects for which the city is otherwise authorized to incur debt for a period of 5 years or longer, provided that such amount shall be accounted for separately in such fund and subject to further appropriation by the City Council for particular school capital projects that meet the requirement of this vote of General Law C-44 and 63, and that the City Treasurer is authorized and directed to take any action necessary to redeem the 2009 urban renewal bonds and 2011 urban renewal bonds as provided by this vote.
Councilor Robinson?
To a second reading and also go into conference.
Seeing no objection?
Next order introduced by Councilor Lopez. Request that the city manager and DPW commissioner get together to see if there is any possibility to install a new light at the pole in front of 109, 111 Hawthorne Street.
Councilor Lopez?
Adopting the suspension. If there's no objection, I'd like to speak on it.
You may.
Yes, on the corner of Hawthorne Street and Central Avenue, actually to be exact, 111 Hawthorne Street, there's an ornamental light that's been out for a long time. And there's also an empty pole that has no light at all. That corner is very dark, so I would like to see if the city manager talk to the commissioner, DPW, to see if we can install a new light there. So to be, more clear and more light in there. I'm concerned about safety in that area. Those areas there is really dark. Thank you.
Next order introduced by Councilor Lopez. Request that the subcommittee on conference be held with the city manager, DPW director, and the city lights contractor, Daigle, to provide an update of where we are with all the lights that we are changing or fixing all around the city.
Chair recognizes Councilor Lopez.
Set the file, send it to a subcommittee on conference. The reason I put this is because, we have a contractor that's changing lights in the city, and I just want to know, and I hope my colleagues would like to know about where we are with this Daggle company who was changing the lights. Some streets are being done, but there's some others, especially in our sector 4, where it's very dark, and we need an update. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilor Vido.
I agree with this order. I'm just wondering if it would make sense to set it to the Subcommittee of Public Works? If the...
Would the maker of the motion accept that this gets sent to the Committee on Public Works instead of the conference?
Subcommittee conference with DPW and also the company, Daggle, the electric company?
Right, but instead of it being a committee on conference, to accept it to go to Public Works.
That's fine.
So amended. Councilor Recupero.
I agree with my fellow councilor too. And maybe by that time, they can give us how much money we actually give this company to go around to check and fix our lights.
Okay.
Next order introduced by Councilor Robertson, requested a subcommittee on conference be held with the city manager and director of Chelsea Recreation and Cultural Affairs Division to discuss the expansion of the Chelsea Community Schools into an arts and recreation department.
Councilor Robinson.
Adopt this unanimously under suspension, and I will be brief, actually. I met with the marketing director for the Red Sox, so I happened to be at the Boys and Girls Club breakfast, and talked about when they look at communities and pass out tickets to the Red Sox games, that everything goes to Boys and Girls Club. And I explained to him that there are other community groups here, like Little League Baseball, the two, Pop Warner and Chelsea Pride, the Youth Basketball League, and he asked me to forward all their information to them, which I did. And I think the reason I want to have this conversation, I know we talk about a community center and this and that, we can be able to get to a point to provide a lot of activities by taking a look at expanding what we're doing at the community schools as opposed to looking to go out and spend all kinds of money to build a community center. We do have facilities that we can make use of. We just have to plan a little bit better and offer a lot more things than we're offering right now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes Councilor Vido.
This is a very important matter that we should discuss, but I'm wondering if it would make more sense for it to go to the Subcommittee of Public Health?
Does the maker object to it being going to?
Well, if they feel it should go to public health, as long as we're going to have a conversation about it, I don't have a problem with it.
Councilor Recupero.
I hope when we go on a subcommittee with this, they will allow also, if my fellow councilor wants to open this up with the schools so it'll be more effective for all the people of our city to use, they will allow also the high school to be used. Because we've done that before, and it's always said we cannot use the high school because they're using it. So if you don't include the biggest part of this, then this is all a waste, because it's still, you can ask B, you can ask all of them. This is not enough to fulfill the need of our city, unless you open up the high school too. And I don't think they're ever going to open up the high school to the public. That's when we go to subcommittee, that's one of the biggest things I'm going to stress is, are you going to open up the high school to go along with the other community schools? Because if you don't, we go to subcommittee, it ain't still going to be, it ain't going to fix the need of our community. It's not. You need to, either you do this or you build a community center, or open up the high school where everybody can use it.
Councilor Rodriguez.
And usable, you just have to go to the school department, to Doug, just to add that.
Councilor Brown.
I'm glad that we're discussing this here, and I asked my council member, the maker of this request, he's the delegated to the school department, that he bring this at their next meeting, let him know that the city council is interested in finding out how we can collaborate, work together, and maybe he can bring some information back from the school department and let us know how they feel about this motion. I know it's great, as my fellow councilors, to have subcommittee meetings, but if you're not talking directly to those folks and we have a delegation to the school committee, maybe you can address this on behalf of the city council. It's a concern. and you can get us some information. Thank you.
Yes.
The Chelsea Public Schools.
Okay.
It's a difference.
We have the next order, the resolution introduced by Council President and Vice President Judith Garcia. Whereas there are between 41,000 and 78,000 residents who would be eligible drivers in Massachusetts but cannot presently access driver licenses because of their federal immigration status. And whereas many undocumented immigrants reside in the city of Chelsea, which is a sanctuary city and has a deep history of welcoming immigrants to its community. And whereas many undocumented immigrants need to drive, whether it is for work, to take their children to school, or for other important appointments. And whereas regardless of the particular reason, driving is necessary for many undocumented immigrants to conduct their daily activities. And whereas to ensure road safety accountability, the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles should provide qualified undocumented immigrants with driver licenses regardless of their immigration status. And whereas to date, 15 other states and the District of Columbia allow undocumented immigrants to obtain driver licenses, including many in our Northeast region, such as Connecticut, Vermont, New York, New Jersey, in addition to Delaware, New Mexico, Utah, Oregon, Nevada, Illinois, Washington, Maryland, Colorado, Hawaii, and California. And whereas, as for the Massachusetts, despite the introduction of several pieces of legislation in the Massachusetts legislature and wide support of such legislation from over 235 Driving Families Forward organizational endorsers, including Massachusetts AFL-CIO State Federation, none has yet to pass. Whereas the Massachusetts Major City Chiefs Association, made up of chiefs of police, commissioners of superintendents of police from municipal subdivision of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the state police and transit police in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, have as well endorsed the bill as common sense public policy that benefits everyone. And whereas the proposed bill has been endorsed by many city mayors, including those from Boston, Somerville, and Revere, and whereas passing a bill that grants driver's licenses to qualified undocumented immigrants is in the best interest of the entire population of Massachusetts, because immigrants wanting to drive legal will have to pass written and practical driver exams, register their vehicles, and obtain automobile insurance. Whereas allowing undocumented immigrants to obtain driver licenses will improve public safety by ensuring that everyone driving has been properly educated and tested and is operating a registered, inspected, and insured vehicle. And whereas allowing undocumented immigrants the opportunity to obtain a driver's license will mean increased revenue for the state from license and registration fees and may lead to lower auto insurance premiums for all of Massachusetts residents. Whereas immigrants with driver's license will more easily integrate into their communities, which is beneficial to all Massachusetts residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Chelsea calls upon Massachusetts Legislature to pass the act relative to work and family mobility, Senate Bill 2061, House Bill 3012, that would allow undocumented immigrants to obtain a driver's license regardless of their immigration status. Chair recognizes Councilor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight we have a unique opportunity, my colleagues, myself, the president of our council, to ensure that we put this extra pressure on our state legislators to really take this act was pulled out of committee and hopefully will be facing the floor to be voted on, and hopefully it's a good result for our city residents. And something I do want to highlight and actually thank, and you know what, I actually realized I did not make a motion for roll call. Okay, Mr. Chairman, so I take that back, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion for roll call, but I would also continue would like to continue my speech. I'll keep it brief. So this is our unique opportunity to really have a say on, not only have a say, but try to persuade our legislators to really get on the right side of the aisle here. And let's be real, our community is predominantly immigrant community, and a lot of our folks depend on transportation to get to work, to get to school, to get to their medical appointments, and honestly, it's a human right to be able to move and have access. So this law, even though may be contentious for many because it talks about undocumented immigrants and giving them that right to drive, the other side of this argument is that we will be educating drivers, and we will ensure that folks know and understand the rules of the road to create roads that are safer for everyone. So it is for benefit of all that we pass a law like this and that we join other progressive states in such actions of providing driving licenses for documented immigrants. And I hope that we can continue to be one of those progressive cities that also endorses this legislation, like Boston, Somerville, and Revere. And I personally want to thank all my colleagues who co-sponsored. I know I reached out to you guys last week, and many of you who did decide to be on this right side of this legislation immediately said yes without thinking about it. So I think that will be reflective tonight when we take this roll call vote and we see who is in support of most of the members of this community. So thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing your testimonies and your speeches of support, and then I look forward for your vote tonight.
Councilor Rideau and then Councilor Taylor.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. I know that when we announced the motion that there were several councilors whose names were not mentioned, and I'm pretty sure that the majority of us did sign on to that, so I definitely did want to acknowledge that we are an immigrant community. I cannot, as a driver in this city, I cannot tell you how many accidents that we've had where we get rear-ended or someone hits us, and then they're so scared because they're not documented, and so they don't have insurance, they don't have a license. I think it's a way of keeping everyone safe. I just also want to praise all the work that immigration activists have done around this. I know Movimiento Cosecha last Monday did a hunger strike at the State House waiting for this to come out of committee, so there are a lot of people that have been really working on this for a long time. I do worry, I have to be honest, about if I'm an undocumented person, the fear. Like, we act as if though this is gonna, but imagine the fear of being someone that's undocumented and then having to even put your name somewhere to be able to get a license. So there's, it's scary for people some of our most vulnerable communities, but I am absolutely in full support of this. I know the governor has said publicly that he is not in support of it, but he's usually not on the same side as me. Anyway, so nonetheless, we persist. And so I'm just grateful to be on the right side of history with this, and I want to thank my colleagues for bringing it forward and for everyone else who sponsored this. Thank you.
Just for clarification, the sponsors of this, I didn't see the second page till just now. We have Councilor Lars Damali Vido, Councilor Melinda Vega Maldonado, Councilor Naomi Zabit, Councilor Enio Lopez, Councilor Giovanni Recupero, and Councilor Yamir Rodriguez. Chair recognizes again, Councilor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'd like to be clear to all of my colleagues and everybody watching at home that I believe that this issue does not belong before the City Council. The City Council has no bearing on the issuance of driver's license. I have no objection to anyone supporting whatever legislation is on Beacon Hill. I would encourage everybody, my colleagues, everybody at home, if you support this bill, you should call your state representative and your state senator and advocate for its passage on Beacon Hill. To bring it before the City Council, because we needed added pressure, I can assure you that State Senator Sal DiDomenico, Representatives Rosalie Vincent and Dan Ryan don't need any pressure to vote for this bill. This resolution, we have no jurisdiction. This is a waste of time and money in my view, with all due respect, because we cannot affect any change in any of this by a vote. Every one of us is free to advocate for the bill or not. I want to make one thing clear, is that throughout my tenure on this city council, however long it may be, anytime that there is a resolution offered up in this manner that is a partisan political issue meant for virtue signaling, I will vote no on any resolution of this manner, whether I agree with it or whether I disagree with it. Because in my view, this kind of thing does not belong before the city council. We were elected to solve Chelsea's problems. This is not a problem we are authorized under the charter to deal with. And I think that we ought to stick and concentrate to Chelsea's serious problems. And I would encourage all my colleagues in the future to consider this. Thank you.
Councilor Lopez.
So I just want to say that this is only a resolution to show them that we are supporting what they are fighting at the State House. And we have so many people from different countries in Chelsea. And as Councilor Judith Garcia said, they need transportation to go to school, church, buy food and everything for the kids. And there's so many people that are driving in Chelsea without a license. If this passes the State House, we're just showing that we are supporting what they're doing over there. We're not telling them what to do, but we just tell them that we're supporting this. And so many people driving without a license in Chelsea. In the future, the city of Chelsea is going to make money on registration, that people who are going to register their car in Chelsea. And it's benefit for everybody. And God forbid, someday you get hit in the back, that person has no license, is going to run away. What are you going to do? You're going to charge it to your own insurance? I think this is going to remedy some of the stuff that's going on in Chelsea. Thank you.
No. I'm going to call the roll at this point. Roll call.
Yes would be to adopt, no would be not to adopt. Councilor Zabit?
Yes.
Councilor Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
No.
Councilor Recupero? Yes. Councilor Robinson? Absent. Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido?
Yes.
Councilor Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 absent. Motion adopted. I think Councilor Brown is withdrawing the order that he introduced, I believe, right?
Yes.
And that's all.
You may speak on it.
So thank you, Mr. President. So the order I'm withdrawing tonight is an order that was put in about 4 corner signs, stop signs at the corner of Broadway and Beacon. It's come to my attention. I was at the hearing last week, and I guess I must have missed it. The president stated that they did take it up, but it wasn't on the agenda. But so what they're going to do for those residents that's watching this and has spoke to me about this here is that they're going to have a public meeting. I believe it's going to be March 3rd. Can't be March 3rd. That's the election. You gave me a date. Is it March 3rd?
I'll verify that.
Okay, so but there's a public meeting for the public to come before the city to give their input. We just want to make sure that you're aware of what the city's trying to do. Obviously, we're trying to work with the safety, bring in this area, it's right below the court going into Beacon, and when you come off the bridge down Beacon. So there's a big area there where 4 corners are, and sometime the folks coming past the courthouse believe they have the right to go straight ahead, and those coming down or coming up on Beacon, they believe they have the right to. So we're just trying to clarify some of the activity there. I've heard that there's been numbers of accidents there, and we're just trying to make that a little safer corner. So the reason why I'm withdrawing it is because we will be having a public hearing on it, and then we'll go forward with the 4 signs, stop signs. Thank you.
The tentative date is March 3rd. The previous one was March 4th, but it's not officially in the books yet. Are there any announcements? Councilor Recupero.
Here's one of the announcements I have. The city right now is changing some sewer pipes, and the streets that are affected, they're not changing your inside piece yet. They change it up to the sewer right now. And I think what they're gonna do, they're gonna change the piece that goes into your house after they do the sewer lines. They do the sewer lines first, that's what I was told. The sewer lines will be first, and then the pipe will be next. Is that? Yes, is there something different that I don't know? Okay. Right now, they're digging up Essex Street, right? They're not going into the people's houses to change that piece of pipe that goes into their house. They're only doing the sewer. They're not doing, right, they're not doing the water connection yet. Right, so the whole thing I'm saying is that people, they're still gonna do your water connection. Right now, what they're doing is the sewer connection. And all of us, thanks the city manager for at least doing the water that's coming into your house. But it's not doing it yet. So don't worry, they're gonna get to your water after they finish the sewer. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Vido.
Mr. Avellaneda, I just want to, we all, councilors, all received a letter from our administrative assistant, Ledia Cocho, who will be leaving us. And so I just wanted to make sure that I announced and gave her credit. Since we first came in, we came into council around the same time in 2016. Ledia is what makes these meetings possible. Her and Paul are the magicians behind the scenes that create all of those thousands of pages of our packets and the agendas for the meetings, and they're our administrative assistant. Could you imagine what it is like to work for 11 politicians? So I just want to make sure that I'm giving credit to, of course, Paul's still staying with us, hopefully forever. But Ledia will be leaving us, and I just wanted to make sure that I announced it publicly, so we will be looking for someone. But Ledia has been an absolute blessing to work with, and I'm just super grateful to have had the opportunity to work with such a dynamic young woman who was just fierce, and I just so grateful to have been able to work with her and what she's contributed to the city council. So I know we all got the letter. I just want to make sure to let the public know, for the sake of transparency, we'll be having a new administrative assistant sometime soon, but I don't know that anybody will be able to fill those huge shoes, but thank you.
Councilor Taylor.
So I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention that Wednesday, February 12th, is the deadline to register to vote in the March 3rd primary. It's important, no matter what party you belong to, that you get out and vote. So if you're not registered to vote, or if you'd like to change your party registration, you can do that online by going to www.sec.state.ma.us, or you can visit the city clerk, and they will be open until 8 o'clock on Wednesday for voter registration or voter change. Thank you.
Any moments of silence? No? Seeing no further business before the city council, we are adjourned.